guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany Janae, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 10 Commandments. And what if your child's classroom required them to display religious text that you didn't subscribe to or whether you did subscribe to in the classroom? We're going to get into all that because in Louisiana, that will become reality starting January 1st of 2025. Let's get into it. So as of June of 2024, Governor Jeff Landry recently signed into legislation a new law that will require all classrooms K through 12 in all public universities, public elementary, public middle schools, high schools, et cetera, to display the 10 Commandments in the classroom. And so in order to put it in the classroom, it has to have a certain size. So it has to be 11 by 14 inches. And it has to be, the 10 Commandments have to be the center focus of the poster or the paper that it is on. And you have to have it in easy and readable font in the classroom. And so a lot of people feel some type of way about this because isn't there a thing called separation of church and state? And so the state is getting involved in religious matters, and you know, isn't this a violation of the Establishment Clause and under the Free Exercise Clause? Let's get into it. So if you don't know, Governor Landry, as I stated, has recently signed into legislation a new bill that is going to be requiring all classrooms, all public schools in Louisiana to have the 10 Commandments in the classroom, which will be subjecting children of all different religious beliefs to the state's favored religion, which is Christianity. And so a lot of people are outraged about this. A lot of people feel like this is what we need. A lot of people feel like this is Project 2025 rollout. And Louisiana has been a hot spot when it comes to new legislation because we do have a new governor who was tough on crime and is a very conservative man. And I am not surprised. And so essentially, of course, a lawsuit has been filed against Governor Jeff Landry, and he said that he welcomes all lawsuits whenever he was signing the legislation because he knew that this is unconstitutional and likely the make of the Supreme Court that we currently have, the justices, the make of it might rule in his favor if this does go to the point that it's in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. And so essentially, in the lawsuit, and the argument that can be made is that it is unconstitutional because we've had this go in front of the Supreme Court and they ruled in the 80s that this was unconstitutional because it was religious, and the primary or the principle of the 10 Commandments was rooted in religious nature. So if you didn't know, there was a case in Kentucky called Stone v. Graham that was exactly similar to the case or the situation that we have going on in Louisiana, where it was legislation in the 80s where all of the public schools would have to display the 10 Commandments in the classroom. And essentially what happened in that case is that the court said that there's a 3-part test that must be done to determine whether or not is this violating the Establishment Clause. The first thing is that the principle or the primary effect cannot be rooted in religious nature. Second, it cannot either advance or inhibit religion. And third, it cannot be any excessive government entanglement. And so, and they ruled in that case that it basically, the 10 Commandments is rooted in religious nature, and therefore the principle, the primary effect, violates the Establishment Clause because it is not a secular legislation or secular in nature, and therefore you cannot display the 10 Commandments in the classroom. Now, given the recent events that we have had with our Supreme Court justices, with them basically doing away with Roe v. Wade and leaving it up to the states, a lot of people feel like Jeff Landry intentionally done this, whereas he knew that if this case goes to the Supreme Court again, they're likely going to rule in his favor. And so maybe this was a strategic move on his end to get what he wants. The other thing to note is that in Lemon v. Kurtzman, which is a case law that came out way back in the day that talks about this very thing about the Establishment Clause, and that was the Lemon test, which is the 3-part test that was discussed in Stone v. Graham. And so the other important thing to note is the free exercise right clause that we have in America, where you have the right to practice whatever religion that you want, and Congress shall make no laws that will prohibit you from practicing your freedom of religion. And so basically we have almost 700,000, I believe around the exact number close to is 680,000 children that are enrolled in school, in public schools here in Louisiana, and we will be subjecting, or the classrooms will be subjecting them to this religious text every day, and it may make them feel a way as if they cannot freely practice their own religion if it's not Christianity in which they believe in, right? And so that way it is in some way indoctrinating the children, I guess one could say, or one could argue, to believe in a religion that they family don't practice, or that they weren't raised in, and that they may be being coerced into a religion that, they don't normally practice. So there's a lot of discourse going on right now, and this is a very hot topic here in Louisiana, about forcing teachers to basically put this text in their classroom. So there are some teachers that are adamant that they are not going to be posting the 10 Commandments in their classroom. And as far as what the repercussions are, is not clear within the legislation that was recently passed as to what's going to happen to teachers who refuse to post this poster or this religious text in their classroom. There are some teachers who said that they may post, we are not going to post the 10 Commandments in our classroom until the law is clear, because we're not going to do anything that is deemed unconstitutional and potentially harmful to their students. A law that was recently passed that mandated that school classrooms put "In God We Trust" in the classroom. And so the repercussions for failing to that was basically depending on the school board system, or a parish by parish or county by county thing. And so it's just not quite clear, because there are a ton of teachers, even the teacher of the year, someone who won teacher of the year is refusing to put up this text in their classroom. And it's like, what do? And also the big issue is who's going to be funding? Like, how are they going to be able to pay for these posters? How are they going to pay for this text to be posted into their classroom? That's the other big debate of trying to figure out who's going to pay for it.
Bedevil the U.S. Constitution, even if they have to use the 10 Commandments to do it. They clearly have not read the Constitution very carefully, if at all. If they had, they'd know that the First Amendment not only guarantees the free exercise of religion, but it also forbids the establishment of any official religion, which Louisiana's new law does by force-feeding Judeo-Christianity to school children of all faiths, or those of no faith. The governor and lawmakers apparently don't know much about the 10 Commandments either, because the bill that Landry just signed into law was so poorly drafted that it lists 11 commandments. Yeah, 11. Now that is dumbassery on a biblical scale.
However, one could argue, right, that we get some of our laws from the 10 Commandments, and very simple, very basic stuff. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. These are God's law of the land. This is things that you have to follow as a human being, whether you are religious or not, because that is the law. I don't know, but it's a very interesting subject, and I'm waiting to see how this is going to play out, because that was a very bold move of our legislators in Louisiana to do something such as that. But they've passed other very controversial topics, controversial legislation as well, such as surgical castration and other things such as nitrogen oxide as a form of lethal injection. And now Louisiana, you no longer need a permit to basically carry or conceal. So there's a lot of things happening in the state of Louisiana, and it has a lot of people talking, and it's very interesting. And it seems like we are going back to the basics when it comes to basic humanity in regards to like putting religion back in the classroom. And some people have even said, like, what if some children don't have spirituality? This will introduce them to some sort of spirituality, some sort of religion by putting this in the classroom. And I mean, that is something to think about. However, but the law is the law in regards to basically keeping church and state separate and allowing people to freely exercise whatever religion they want without being indoctrinated or being forced to see a religious text that they may not necessarily agree with that might make them uncomfortable. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts about this? I just wanted to come by and make this video and just kind of talk about this real quick because I know it is a hot topic right now. Teachers, let me know what you think. How will you be implementing these texts into your classroom for the upcoming year? Where will you be placing it? Because it has to be in readable font and it has to be the center focus of the poster. And so I just think it's really interesting. So no, you can't have it in like really teeny tiny fonts or very hard to read fonts. It has to be in a way that the students and faculty, once they see it, they'll be able to read it and understand it. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about this topic because it is another controversial legislation that is happening here in Louisiana. And that's it. That's all I got. Don't have any more. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.